It has been a year now since supporters of former President Donald Trump stormed the United States Capitol as Congress gathered there to certify the Electoral College votes from the presidential election. The repercussions of that day still playing out in our courts, in the markets, in the psyche of the American people. Let's take a quick look back at what happened and how it unfolded on that day.
Came here to protect our republic. Forward! Forward! We are Trump! We are Trump! USA! USA! Stand tall! Fight for Trump! Fight for Trump!
We'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated.
I rise for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
Doors are barricaded. Glass has been broken into the gallery door. Members on the floor have been evacuated. Others are waiting for Capitol Police and sheltering in place. Members are praying. They broke the glass.
We're all locked down in our offices. I am sickened beyond belief. I can't believe that it is happening in the capital of the United States of America.
You need to take that off and be with us. Go shoot some more Americans. Move! Move!
The Senate will come to order. Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol. May God bless the United States of America. Let's get back to work.
One of the members of Congress who was evacuated from the chamber that day was Representative Jerry Connolly, a Democrat of Virginia, and the congressman is joining us now. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. I know that these are painful memories to have to relive here today, but it's an important conversation, obviously, to have here. So as you watch that footage and as you think back a year ago, what do you think is now most important for Americans to remember and most important for Congress to achieve in the wake of those events?
I think Americans need to understand the importance of January 6th. It was not just an isolated group of people who got carried away. This was a deliberate assault on the functioning of democracy, the most sacred function of democracy, as a matter of fact, the counting of the ballots of a free and fair election and certifying the results and the peaceful transfer of power. All of that was challenged that day, aided and abetted and incited by the then president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, who ironically encouraged the mob to descend on the U.S. Capitol to protest what was happening, while he, of course, saying we're going to walk to the Capitol, promptly went back to the safety of the White House, where he watched the violence, apparently with pleasure, on television.
Congressman, what do you believe is the longer term impact of the insurrection in this country?
The question, I think, for Americans is, will we abide by the results of free and fair elections, or are we going to participate in corrupting the process by undermining it through voter suppression, by stacking electoral boards that will challenge actual voting tallies, by trying to make it impossible to certify legitimate election results when Congress convenes a joint session to certify the next president? Do we believe in democracy or not? Are we committed to democracy or not? And are we going to normalize violence as part of our polity going forward? That's a very, very fraught road to go down. And I think January 6th really encapsulated all of those issues for us. They're still with us, unfortunately. We haven't resolved them. And so, that struggle continues. And those of us who voted to certify the election and were willing to stay in the House to see it done a year ago today are still fighting that battle. And we're going to continue to fight it for the sake of democracy, for the sake of future generations of Americans. And my hope is that those generations will look back on this time period and say, thank God there were people willing to stand up for what was right. People like Liz Cheney, a very courageous Republican, a conservative, the daughter of one of the most conservative vice presidents in the history of the country. But she has stood up for what was right, and she's spoken out about it as speaking truth to power in her own party. We need a lot more Liz Cheneys in America.
And of course, the president also spoke about it today, right? President Biden giving quite a forceful speech just about an hour ago is when he was wrapping up that speech, not naming Donald Trump by name, but referring to him multiple times as the former president, in fact, the defeated former president, as he put it. What is it, as we hear that combative tone, and as we hear you talking about the fight that we now need to have, what does that fight look like? Is it a new Voting Rights Act? What needs to happen sort of state by state to ensure that fair and free elections continue?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I welcome and applaud President Biden's remarks today. They were forceful, they were unequivocal, they laid out the issues with great clarity, and he showed enormous fortitude in helping people understand what the stakes are. As we move forward, I think we have to be as aggressive as possible in prosecuting those who perpetrated the violence on January 6th, in pursuing the truth of how did that happen and who's responsible for it, no matter how high it goes, in going after extremist violent groups in America who for far too long were allowed with impunity to operate on social media in broad daylight in terms of what their agenda was and what they were up to, which was the violent overthrow of our former government. And I think we have to fight back with voter suppression by passing the two voting rights bills that are before the Senate right now that have already passed the House. Whatever it takes. I mean, if we have to get rid of the filibuster to do it, what's more sacred in our democracy than the ability to vote and have that vote counted? We fought too long and too hard through the civil rights movement, through women's suffrage, to go back. And we can't allow ourselves to go back. And we have to make sure that we're fighting the good fight at the state and local level so that insurrectionists and white supremacists and Trump's extreme elements of the far right aren't taking over electoral boards to actually undermine and decertify actual votes that were counted. And that is a process that's going on as we speak, and we have to fight back.
I was going to ask you about that specifically because there was a recent report by NPR that talked about various Republicans who disputed the outcome of the election now attempting to be Secretary of State, for example, people who are in a position of power when it comes to certifying those election results. Talk to me about the awareness within the party about those challenges and how systemic the efforts are. What are the efforts in order to try to prevent that from happening?
I would hope that I think there is a level of awareness, but I would hope that my fellow Democrats move that level of awareness to a level of deep, deep alarm and action. We cannot stand by and allow legislative niceties like the filibuster and the role of protecting the filibuster to actually prevent us from passing pivotal, critical legislation to protect the right of everyone to cast their vote and have it counted. The stakes are absolute and enormous, and this is the moment we can actually turn that tide. And if we miss this moment, we'll be looking back in this period of time about what a tragic missed opportunity we experienced. So I would hope that in my own party, we understand that the stakes are so high and action is called for right now.
Congressman, thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts on this important milestone day. Representative Gerry Connolly, Democrat of Virginia. Thanks again.